Trauma Uncensored.
Trauma Uncensored.
Trauma Uncensored.
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Trauma Uncensored. This is take 2, but this time we only had to take 1 minute off the top.
Not 25 like Melanie.
Unlike last time when we had Melanie on here and we had to literally go from the top. But we have another M guest. Michelle is with us today, and her last name is Bandy instead of Jordy, so I'm like getting all confused with these names. But today it's Michelle Bandy Davis, and she is here to share her story. And if you guys don't know, when we do these, we don't really research much about our guests because we believe in the uncensorship of this. So we just kind of let it go and rip raw. So I'm guessing you are going to want to be near a box of tissues as we go through this one. Just from the very brief and kind of 120,000 foot view that we got from Michelle earlier. So thank you for being here. Welcome to the show. And if you are our first listener, if this is like the first time listening to the show, thank you again for you specifically because you took a chance to give us your time, and we're always thankful for that. If you do like the show, make sure you go subscribe to it. We are on Instagram and all those things. So just follow us all the places that you exist online. And we won't spam you with any of that stuff. It's just more creating a community for people who want to hear about how other people have overcome trauma, grief, loss, abuse, all this other stuff. So with that said, all right, Michelle, how are you today?
Fantastic. Super excited to be here.
And thank you for joining us, by the way. It's we are both very honored to be able to sit and share space with you.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's a I promise you a fun icebreaker question, and it's going to be relevant to what we were talking about right before we hit record, just to kind of let people in on behind the scenes. But how old were you when you started cussing?
I think that I used like minor curse words in high school, but I think the real serious ones probably didn't come until well into my 30s.
Whoa.
I know.
That actually kind of relates to what we're going to talk about, I think, because whoa.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it has to do with your childhood and upbringing, which we're going to get into.
I mean, listen, I didn't start cussing until last week, so, you know.
Brooke, get the fuck out of
here. Yeah.
He said to her on her own podcast. All right, hold on. So, okay, so I was 6th grade. I remember specifically, and it felt good. It felt like I had learned how to cook or something. You know what I'm saying? Like a nice meal. How wonderful. But okay, so let's go back and your journey of trauma is a little different than, you know, Brooke and Melanie, who experience loss and like really tragic loss. From what I understand, am I accurate in saying that before I insert my foot in my mouth?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I'm like, I am flexible enough to put it in there, but only if I have to. Okay, so can you walk me through before we get into the actual details of your story and the chronological order, or however, I guess, whichever way you want to tell it. But can you tell us, you were mentioning before we recorded that this is going to be the first time you share this story like openly. Like, I mean, you shared it in groups and stuff, but this, right? Is that correct?
Sure.
So
1,000%. And I think that it's probably going to be the first time many of my closest people have even heard.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for being here and sharing
Oh
with
my God.
us. We get to be the ones to really hear it, and you get to share it with all the people. I do believe that there is a sense of healing and maybe also taking some weight off of the shoulders when you allow yourself to be super vulnerable and actually speak your truths and speak your story. And no, we're grateful. We're grateful that you're using this as a platform. Thank you so very much.
Yeah. I love that this is a platform, first and foremost, that this is what you two are doing every day. Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot. It really does, because
it does.
It takes a lot of courage from Brooke. When we started this, I told her before we started, I'm like, hey, this is going to be rough. We're going to open up a lot of layers underneath that people you might not have even seen. So there's stuff that's going to be scary and stuff. So I can't imagine how you're feeling. So can you walk us through, before we get into the story, because there's people out there who have suffered, who have experienced maybe similar things or adjacent to the things that you've experienced, who might still be nervous about opening up and taking like power in that and stepping into power in that. Can you, what encouraged you? What is inspiring you to even like say, all right, it's time to tell the story?
It's realizing that every human walking has some kind of trauma, right? It may not be as intense as the loss of a child, the loss of a spouse. It could be not making the high school basketball team, which seems trivial to Brooke and I sitting here who have experienced intense trauma, but there's no level of trauma. And I realized that every human has a story to tell, and they bottle things up. And that's really right. That when we're walking around with those emotions bottled up and unable to express them, that's where the detriment of our human ability to love and nurture and grow happens. So I think when I realized that when I can voice my story and it connect with someone else, that them feel like, okay, I can get brave. I can share that too. Or, wow, I'm not the only one that has experienced it.
Yeah. Understood that. Okay. So this is step one, bravery, right? It's to encourage others, and to be able to let others know, hey, you're not alone. Okay. Well, thank you for that. That I just wanted to ask, because I would have thought maybe I was shocked earlier just now when you told us this is going to be the first time we were going to tell this, and I was like, oh my god, there's like an extra layer of reverence that you get for that. So,
but also, I mean, bravery and being and opening up, but also, like you guys were saying, showing others that there are people who care and there are spaces for you to be able to talk about, what you've been through. And unfortunately, that's not how our society operates, and which is unfortunate. I mean, you talk about Michelle, the love and the healing and all of that with being able to open or, release all of this, but also think about the people who keep it bottled up, and the, the health issues, or, the chronic pain, or, things of the mental health that continues to grow, issues that continue to grow and grow. So it's just this all-encompassing storm of bullshit that we hold on to whenever we don't feel like we can express it, and you bottle all of that up, and it's almost like you become just this whole of a person instead of who you're truly meant to be, truly living.
Yeah. And you're spewing ugly out into the world, whether you realize it or not, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You close off, you get hateful, you get bitter and spiteful. And I think that when I encounter a rude person at the Starbucks, I'm like, wonder what your trauma is. You're definitely going through it, right? And I try to have that understanding and empathy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good point. When I was in residential trauma, the first time, my first tour, my primary therapist taught me to get curious. He taught me to exist in basically a world of curiosity, not in, in a negative way, but kind of like what you said, and what I mentioned last week on the podcast last week about the waiter that I had, where I had to step back. He was not being a nice waiter whenever I mispronounced the name of their margaronas, but I had to step back and be like, okay, what's he dealing with today? Or you hear stories of, Mallory's got friends, and I go, what's their trauma? They're behaving in this way. What's their trauma? Or their parents? Or, that is a very good curiosity, I think, to walk alongside with, because it also helps to prevent the taking it personally, I think.
Yeah.
Taking their behavior personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so, wow. Already off to a great start. Look at this. We're only 10 minutes in. Okay, so
I know, I'm already writing notes. I'm taking tidbits from her. I'm already writing my own notes.
Yeah, this is like if you box of tissues and a notebook.
And a notebook.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump in and hear your story. As detailed or not as you want it to go. Is take it from the top or take it from the middle and go back. Give us some flash. Whatever, however you want to tell it.
Sure.
This could be Lord of the Rings, or this could be vantage point where we get this different perspective from everyone. I don't know if anybody even got that reference, but go ahead and let's jump in.
I did not, but I'll just go with it. Listen, I'm going to jump right from the get-go. So I am the result of teenage lust, teenage pregnancy. So my mom was 15 when I was conceived, 16 when I was born. My dad had just turned 18 when I was born. I think it's important to highlight I come from a super, super small town in Indiana, which Brooke and I have that in common. My mom was one of the only women of color. Her family came from Mexico. So imagine it's like the late 70s. She doesn't look like the people from that small town. She gets pregnant by my dad, who had been born and raised in the area. And without question, they were not equipped to be parents. And that's not to say it's just because of their age, because we encounter lots of teen pregnancy, teen mothers who become excellent parents, excellent mothers. And that just wasn't the case with mine. So this is going to be a little woohoo, but I think when I go internal and I think about my first emotion, my first feeling, it is definitely of being unwanted. And we could even go super deep. Like, did I feel that in the womb? Yeah, I think I did. I think that I felt it and I knew it from the time of my conception that unwanted was number one. So of course I was born. They had me. They got
And we're so
married.
glad they did.
They did.
right.
They had me. They got married. Like, it blows my mind that they were married, but they did get married. And I was born into this environment of chaos with two teenagers trying to figure out how to be humans and be parents. I was born in 1979, 46 years old. It was sex, drugs, rock and roll, like that fun party lifestyle. And so that was definitely what they did. It's who they were. And so I was born into that. My sister was born a little over a year later. So two girls, like my mom was 17, two kids,
What?
dad 19, two kids,
They
right?
didn't
They're
learn
doing
the
it.
lesson after that?
They did it.
Wow.
So from a very early age, that was the environment that we lived in. They were married, but they were teenagers and they had that party lifestyle. Definitely a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, a lot of partying with two little girls. And I experienced during that volatile environment, and I guess it wasn't volatile to some people, right? Like they were just doing what they did in the early 80s. But there was no supervision and there was no parenting happening. And there was a plethora of people revolving through the house. So it's not going to be a shock. I experienced sexual trauma at a very early age. From the inattentiveness of parents, right? Like doing their own thing. And less than desirable humans surrounding the household.
Yeah.
And I remember from a very early age being very conscious of my little sister and being that protector. So I was willing to like go into whatever the battle was if it meant protecting her. So I did experience the extent of the abuse, the sexual abuse. And whether initially my parents were aware or not, I don't know. I don't have a relationship with either of my parents to this day, and it's been very discontinued for many, many years. So if they sat here today, I don't know what they would say. Maybe they would be like, no, we didn't know about it, but it was happening. And when a sexual assault, a sexual trauma happens to anyone, it's brain changing. But when it's happening to a young child, it's truly altering the development of the brain. It's all that I knew. I became very sexualized as a child. And a statement from one of my abusers that I can't seem to erase from my brain is, if you weren't so pretty, I wouldn't have to do this.
Oh
because
my God.
Guess I was a cute little girl, right? Like, I don't know. I had dark skin, dark hair. And it was this, like he was inflicting that responsibility onto me. Like he couldn't
You
control
did
his
this.
impulses because of something I did. Like if I were different.
I wouldn't, if you
My
weren't so pretty,
God.
I wouldn't have to do this. I mean,
That's like I fired the gun and then he stepped into the bullet.
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
What an
really?
asshole. Like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so
Yeah.
hold on. Can I pause for questions or do you want me to just wait? I can wait
Yeah,
for
no,
questions.
pause.
Okay.
Questions, go.
Okay. So how do I ask this? Okay, so with kids generally, I have 1 year, but I have two young, very young cousins, and I know their parents are always like, "Hey, if there's strange men, don't talk to them. This is right and this is wrong when it comes to, people approaching you, touching you, all this stuff." Because your parents were kind of not, I don't want to say missing, but they were not paying attention. It's probably fair. Did you know, like, when it was happening, like, this is wrong? Or were you just like, I guess this is how people go. And then later you're like, oh shit, that happened to me. Do you know what I mean?
I think I definitely knew that it was wrong.
Okay.
I knew that it didn't feel right, but I also didn't know any different. And it had never been taught to me, like, if this happens, talk to someone, right? Like that was never.
That's what I mean. Like if the doctor does this, or if your teacher, like, you tell kids, like, you report, and then they bring the doll and we're on the doll where you touch or whatever. Like, you wouldn't know to even think to say, hey, Tom is being weird or whatever. Oh man.
And it sounds like you were instinctually aware enough to recognize that it was not right because you were stepping in line for your sister.
Yeah.
You were stepping in front of your sister and protecting her. So there was something there that you were like, this isn't okay.
Oh my God.
Well, and you know what's interesting to me too, and this is a topic I think we should bring up later as we discuss more, but with a child, I mean, the prefrontal cortex in a human doesn't develop until, our 20s, right? So we don't have that full amount of, rational thinking brain and all of that jazz. So to think of what that begins to implement into, like you were saying earlier, the development of a child's, of the child's brain, their neurons, their pathways, all of that stuff, I can't even...
Wow.
I don't even have the words, honestly, to begin to even hold it and understand.
Okay. So hang on. Okay. So we're going through this. So let's go back to what you're talking about. So this is happening to you. How old were you? You said young. How old were you?
Young.
Were you like
3?
Oh my God.
As early as 3.
I thought you were like 9 or something.
Right?
No. Holy shit, man. Okay. Hold on.
I know.
No,
I mean,
wait,
if you're
I'm
thinking
so
what I'm
sorry.
thinking, it's like, what the what?
What?
I don't even understand how people can live
How?
with themselves and let alone think that's okay.
Oh my God. Okay. So let's continue. So I derailed you with that question. So I'm so sorry. So you're 3. This is happening. Continue, please. So sorry.
Yeah. So it continued. My parents remained married for just about 10 years. So well until I was 9. So this kind of environment was the norm. I have very little memory of childhood, which is common, right? For kids who experience any kind of abuse or trauma. It's like it just gets blocked out. And so anytime you hear someone say, hey, I don't really have any memories from childhood, like, sit down, let's talk, because
what happened
to you?
Yeah.
What happened
Right.
to you? So when my parents divorced, it was in the 80s. Moms automatically got custody of kids, right? And if I'm truly honest, our dad didn't want custody of us by any means. He was like, yeah, let the mom take them. And to say that she was ill-equipped to be a mother is an understatement of the century. But yet here she was with the 2 of us. And so I think she was in her own fight for survival. I think she experienced her own traumas, her own issues, and she was in a state of survival. Drugs were very much a part of our daily life. Again, instinctually, like Brooke said, I knew that it was wrong. And I knew that I was different. I knew what we were living was very different, even from like interacting with cousins, right? So My dad's parents are, I'll talk about them in a moment, but they are our angels. My mama is what I call her. She was my saving grace, my angel. And by all circumstances, that part of the family was normal. So my dad had siblings who were functioning normal, great people who were having families. And I remember being a little girl and knowing, like, why did we get this into the deal?
Yeah.
And they have like these normal lives, happy lives, memories, experiences, childhood, and this is what we're enduring. So when my parents got divorced and we were with just my mom, and I said she was in survival, this is where her awareness of sexual abuse, she was aware, and it was utilized for her benefit. So I became a commodity for her to be able to use for exchange of other things.
Wow.
Way, dude.
Yeah. And to speak that openly is powerful at this stage in my life. But again, I'm 46 years old, and it took me a long time of therapy and understanding and getting real to be able to understand that, yeah, that's really fucked up. I'm going to drop that F word. That was really messed up what was experiencing.
That
to
F word
me.
doesn't even do
Yeah.
it justice.
Right now, I'm like, what, you cussed? Like, of all the things you said, you did? Because, oh, wow. I wish I could
Holy
just be sitting
shit.
next to you and give you a huge hug right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, there aren't any. I have a feeling we'll be talking about, or we'll be saying these throughout the entire show, but there just don't seem to be words to express the sorrow that I feel for you in this. Because I look at my girls and I'm like, I can't even fathom. I can't even fathom.
Golly.
And so
shit,
in addition to the sexual abuse that was happening, there was physical abuse. Absolutely. It goes back to that initial knowing that my mom just didn't want me. She didn't like me. She really, I think hate is a good word. And I felt it, right? And that physical abuse was very intense. But despite everything, I was always very mouthy and always very vocal with injustices, or when I knew things were wrong. I'm a challenger. I was always going to challenge whether it was right. And the best way to control that is a smack of the mouth, or taking a belt, something of that sort, of that physical dominance, that physical abuse, versus acknowledging, hey, yeah, this may be a problem and we need to do better. So I experienced intense sexual and physical abuse until I was in 6th grade. And there was an instance at my mom's house. We lived in a tiny apartment, and she would leave for weekends at a time, drinking benders, and leave my sister and I with no food in the house, no telephone, just kind of there to exist. And we had a neighbor across the hall, and he was very aware. It was like, what's going on? Something's not right. And there was an instance that my mother had come home, and I was challenging her, like, what is wrong with you? You cannot leave us with no food and resources. And there was an intense beating that encountered, and the neighbor across the hall heard it, and he came in and kind of interceded. And from that, somehow my dad's parents were engaged, and I'll never forget my mama coming in that apartment and just packing, and was like, we're done. You're going.
You're coming with us. Yeah.
You're coming. And I think that my grandparents at the time, they knew it wasn't right. They knew it wasn't good, but they had no rights, right? Back in the 80s, and grandparents had no rights. Like, it was automatic default of the mom.
And they probably didn't have like an extensive knowledge of what was like. They had an idea, but they probably didn't know the details of anything. So to them, they're like, that's weird over there, but we don't know. And how the hell do we? It's none of our business. If we get involved, it's illegal, or like we can get restrained. Okay.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I think even at that point, even at that young age, I still wanted to protect the people, because I knew what was happening was so heavy that I still wanted to protect my mama, right? Like, I didn't want her to feel guilt or obligation for something that she didn't have any control over. So I was still trying to protect because I knew the intensity and how it would affect other people.
Yeah.
So I actually never disclosed any of the abuse to my mama until 9 years ago when I was in the throes of a divorce. Yeah. But I don't know where we go. Like that's just a lot to drop there. Sexual and physical abuse.
Okay, so then you go with your grandma, and you don't tell anybody about this or the details of it. Like nobody knows what's happened to you. They know that there was some abuse, obviously, because that's why they came and got you, right? But the details that you're even sharing now, nobody knew at all. So how does your brain? How do you rationalize the next part? Because
the next part, teenage years.
Yeah, because I mean, so in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so you just went through this insanity of a hell, and then now your body's changing, your hormones are changing, you're experiencing puberty, as we all did. I mean, I as a dude, but you know, it's these years in your life where you're like, I don't even know how to fucking feel about anything, let alone the trauma that your brain's trying to like put it away. Like, how do you go through school? Like, how what the hell? Like,
and it's also the attachment styles. I'm curious about the attachment styles that you had developed through all of that trauma, the unhealthy attachment styles. You know, not just teenage years, but moving throughout your life. But because I think it'll be interesting for people to hear the connection that exists between early childhood trauma like that and how we behave in our lives, unknowingly behave as we continue on, basically repeating the same patterns. I don't know about you, but I mean, I did, not because I wanted to, or I felt like that was great or what I should be doing, but that's what I knew, you know, and I had unhealthy attachment styles and probably still have a few that linger because of all of those. So I would be interested to hear how those progressed or how they showed up for you, you know, high school and then moving on.
Without question, that being sexualized for so many years at such a young age, that's what I knew. So some people would call it promiscuity, slutty behavior. That's what I knew. I got validation from kind of like giving my body, like my body wasn't my own. And I was hurting extremely, but I felt that was the only value that I had ever brought to anyone or anything. I wasn't worth care, consideration, love. So if the only attention I could get was from a boy or a young man in a sexual nature, then that was something I was being validated. And that came with so much shame, right? I think shame is like the number one emotion that I can look through the duration of my life that has been the hardest for me to shake, is feeling ashamed and feeling the shame of that. But again, I think just like you mentioned earlier, having a teenage daughter and her friends, and you're like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, did no one ever think, what's going on with this girl? Like, there's got to be more.
I don't know that there's a dialogue and that people are educated enough to be able to step back and, you know, they just like, you know, my kid has this friend and what a troublemaker and X, Y. Okay, well, yes. And right. What has that child been through? What are they trying to feed? Now, I mean, and here's my question to you. Do you feel that those behaviors in honestly a fucked up way, but I truly believe this is how it works, brought you comfort? Do you feel like it comforted you to behave in those manners, even though you had the shame, even though, you know, you had all of these negative feelings, but obviously you kept going back to it, right? And is that something, the behavior continues because it helps you cope, because it brings you comfort? I mean, like you said, it's what
all you know.
Yeah, it's, I mean, and that's the thing. And that's why, you know, I do encourage parents now, and even within our own household, if, you know, there's someone of concern, it doesn't become they're just a troublemaker. It's why are they acting out? What has happened to them? What are they dealing? What's their trauma that creates, and I have those conversations with Mallory about some of her friends. It's a matter of, you can't just label this person because they're doing this. What happened? What happened to them?
Yep,
Wow.
absolutely. I raised 2 boys, having teenage boys and experiencing girls. And the number one thing, we don't slut shame in this house.
Good for you.
Is if we know something's happening, there's a reason. And maybe she just wants to be sexual. Like there's also that, like women should be encouraged to step into their healthy sexuality in a way that doesn't allow for slut shaming. In my strong opinion.
100%.
I commend you for that. Thank you for being like that.
Yeah, and I talked to my wife about this kind of stuff because I grew up in Nebraska. A lot of in the friends I had in college, a lot of them were more Christian circles, and so for them it was the opposite. It was like total shame for anything sexual. And I'm not talking about just women. I'm talking about men and boys and girls in college, where it's like you would talk. And I didn't grow up that way. My parents taught us sexuality pretty healthily. I mean, I guess as you could. And in Colombian culture, there's really not slut shaming. It's just more like you actually celebrate women's beauty quite a bit. And so all that to say, when I would meet people, it was like almost the opposite of what you experienced, which was no, we don't talk about sex. Sex is bad. No sex. You don't even bring it up. If we're watching a movie and there's a nipple, it's like, holy hell, right? So it's but either way, that's traumatic in its own way. And I'm not calling that abuse for the record. People are gonna listen to this and be like, is he saying that's abuse? No, I'm just saying like the people's relationship with sex and teaching kids about how to properly and appropriately know themselves enough to know what they desire and what they like and what they don't like. It's weird. Like that's part of there's like no good way of teaching a kid that. It seems people have a good approach for how to approach kids about drugs or making friends or doing well in school or sports. But when it comes to this, it feels like we're lacking as a society. And so then there's people who just kind of get, the cracks are massive that people can slip through. And if someone's experienced severe trauma like yourself, then when you get to that point, it's like even more magnified because the cracks that you were trying to avoid are chasms. Or it's like the Grand Canyon, right? So holy shit, man. I'm so sorry. Sorry all that happened to you. That's tough.
I appreciate that. It didn't make it easy to try to navigate through high school, but I did my best, right? Like I knew in my center of who I was that I was meant for more, that I didn't have to stay at that didn't have to define me. And so I worked my ass off in high school. I was involved. I was just trying to be good enough. Like that was what I was trying to strive for. Like, I just want to be good. I just want to be recognized as being good and good enough. So I worked really hard. I did well in school. I went to college. Like that was unheard of, right? Like, what do the stats say of a kid born into teenage parents who didn't finish high school? What does that say? So I worked really hard on that to achieve and be good enough, but I never dealt with all that was bubbling and underlying.
Nor did you know to. Like nobody at this point, nobody has still gone up to you and be like, "Hey, what happened to you was very, very wrong. You need to talk about this."
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I ended up going away to college. First time away from home, freshman year. Joined a sorority. I thought I've reached it. I'm normal. I'm with normal people. Even though I knew I wasn't normal, I did have parents that were involved. Like my grandparents were those pseudo parents. I didn't ever drink in high school. I started experimenting with drinking second semester of my first year of college, and my grades tanked. I mean, just tanked because I didn't know. I don't think that I was drinking to just numb. I was drinking to fit in. Like that was the culture,
what's
right?
cool. Yeah.
It's what was cool. And I came home from school that first semester after my first year that first year. And my depression showed its face for the first time ever. I think I had learned enough. I had gotten vulnerable, and I was definitely experiencing depression and super low self-worth. And it was all starting to bubble to the top about truly what had happened to me in that survival mode. And I was feeling ashamed about my grades back at home. Like, I'm such a loser. I'm not going to amount to anything. And I was depressed, and I was certainly suicidal. Then that was the first time that being suicidal had really ever entered in with me. And again, that comes with a lot of shame, right? You're not going to call up your friend and say, "Hey, I'm feeling really depressed and I think I might
Especially
take my
in the
life."
90s. What is this? Was it
Yeah,
1998?
Yeah. Graduated. Yep. 1997,
Definitely.
1998.
I mean, there's still long strides to go in 2025 of how we treat depression and mental health. But back then,
Yeah, right.
it was like that was your parents would, if you know, in a normal household style with mom and dad, they'd be like, "Wrap that up. We can't tell people you're depressed. That's embarrassing." Like, Jesus. So you're going through it.
Through it. Yeah. So then starts like that stage of like 19 to 21, 22, which I feel like is difficult for any human being, just going from childhood into adulthood and experiencing all the things, learning independence, but also emotionally, right? And I was a wreck. That is the best way. I was an absolute wreck. And I wasn't kind. I talk about the ugliness that can rear its head in people in their personalities and when they're out interacting in the world. And that was me. I was a bitch. I was unlikable. I was nasty. I was mouthy. I was miserable, completely miserable. And so that sets the perfect stage for me to meet my future husband.
Oh, good.
A super broken person. Was the perfect prey for an older man who has his own brokenness, and boom, perfect match. So then I was 19 years old and I met my boy's dad, my first husband, and then becomes a trajectory of the next 14 years of a different kind of existence that wasn't authentic to me, wasn't healthy, but I thought, this is as good as it gets. Like, I'm really unworthy and unlovable, and I guess this is it. Like, no good guys have ever come my way and said, "Hey, I really think you're great and I want to be with you. So, okay, I think this is where I go."
Oh,
And I think that happens a lot in sexual abuse victims, right? Their worth is so low and their value is so negative that they take whatever comes their way, and it's usually less than desirable humans.
It's the true low self-worth humans.
Well,
Right. I'm not trying to categorize someone. Sorry, that was probably rude, but
have you ever again gotten curious and looked back and I mean, can you tell if there are any sort of connections between your ex-husband and what you grew up with, what you experienced? I mean, like similarities in behavior, characteristics,
Yeah.
all the things.
Yeah. I mean, he was just as broken in his own right as I was. He had experienced his own traumas, his own childhood, his own upbringing. And so I have, even to this day, I have great love and empathy for him, knowing what he experienced. And he didn't know better. And I firmly believe that when you know better, you do better. And I was lucky enough to have a mama who poured into me. She was a constant learner and educating herself. And again, you know better, you do better. And I think that he was never given that opportunity. I think my mom was never given that opportunity.
do you, at this point, when you meet your husband, is he the first person who you kind of share what you went through with, or are you still kind of like, not, nobody needs to know this, nothing?
Yeah. Super minimal.
So
Super
now
minimal.
you've gone 2 decades almost, or two, with carrying all this trauma, carrying all this weight, all this experience, and nothing. You have your sister, nobody, nothing. Oh my God.
Not talked about. I really didn't dive into my own therapy and healing until I became a mother. And that's where it really shifted in me to say, yeah, you deserve to know what's going on.
Okay. So you get married, and this is a recipe for just chaos and disaster and horribleness. Okay. Proceed.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if now is the time if I can pause and talk about just sexual abuse in general and the statistics that are so staggering around sexual abuse.
Yes, please do.
Because it really is shocking and most people don't realize. So in the entire world, of all the women in the world, 30% of women will experience some kind of sexual assault and sexual trauma in their lifetime. So 30% of the female population, and that's astounding. And we know these statistics only from women being brave enough to report them. So you have to consider how many people don't report. 1 in 5 girls will experience sexual assault or sexual incest before the age of 18. 1 in 5. So I think about it like a kindergarten class, right? Okay, there's maybe 25 kids in a class. Let's say half of them are girls. So that means two little girls in a kindergarten class will experience some type of sexual trauma or sexual incest. And it's shocking. And again, it's only what's being reported, because statistics show that people typically don't share their sexual assaults, incest, trauma until their 40s. They don't begin speaking about it until they're 40, 50 years old. So you have that eating away at people for decades, like you just highlighted. And so I think it's important to just put it out there to know the signs, to get educated about what to look for, how to ask those questions. And I've spoken obviously from a woman's standpoint and female sexual trauma, but I feel for the men deeply, because it's super not manly to say, hey, I was sexually assaulted as a kid. Right. I was sexually assaulted as a young man. Like, they are not going to speak it, but 1 in 4 boys will experience some type of sexual trauma between the ages of 11 and 17.
My God.
And they don't talk about it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So a couple of things. One, I'm going to try to look up myself stats where people can go see these resources, because what's going to happen is some people listening to this, not everybody, but some folks listening to this are going to go, where did she get that statistic? So just to be safe, I'm just going to put some out there that I can find. But if you know of any others that I can throw on there, please do, just so we can be like, we're not making this up. This isn't some, People thank you, baby. People magazine, like poll of 100 women. Like, there's like research.
Those statistics are absolutely available on the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. It's called RAIN. It's all of those statistics are there. There's helplines. There's chats. You can you can text someone to discuss and uncover the statistics, how to get help, how to report, all of that.
Okay. So, and maybe at the end we'll close with that. Have you share some of those, because there might be people listening to this who are just in the car with someone who they are maybe experiencing this with, and they don't know. They're like, do I just call this place to get pizza? And that's like they have like there's bars in Portland that have a bunch of them have this, and I know this is like a trend that picked up like 5-6 years ago. You know what I'm talking about? Where like in the women's bathroom, it'll say like, if you're being assaulted, if someone's like making you uncomfortable, go to the bartender to order a whatever drink that doesn't exist. And then they do that. It's awesome.
It really is.
When I see it, I'm like, let's go. As a girl dad, dude. Oh, hell no. I would kill someone. Sure. And I'm saying this right now. The FBI listening, because the FBI listens to Trauma Uncensored. Yeah. I'll kill someone. But anyway.
For sure.
Okay, so these are the stats, and keep sharing if you have more, because this is like, these are the things that are like eye opening. 1 in 3 worldwide is makes you just want to move to Mars. Get the fuck out of here. This is awful, man.
It is awful, but it makes you think of the healing that the world needs. And I know that's very woohoo, but it puts that into perspective of all of that healing that really needs to happen in humanity.
It's so intense. And then, you know what's crazier too is like, you mentioned like the non-reporting and all that stuff, but even more so is that like those trends have just now been starting to be like we don't know if like the 80s were better than like the 1780s. You know what I mean? Like, are these stats? Was it 1 in 2 women in like 100 years ago because they weren't paying attention to any of that? Those stats. You know what I mean? Like how much historically has this been as a species? You know, and we just started tracking this 40 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. You know,
and it's concerning where it goes given technology, right? Technology is a wonderful thing, but the way technology impacts and sexualizes everyone, males and females, and just the sexualization in the culture. I think I give it to you two raising girls, because it's not an easy place for young women, young girls to be growing.
Yeah. My mom said it best, but that's the old saying: when you have a boy, you have to worry about one penis. But when you have a girl, you have to worry about all the penises. And they're like, oh, good.
Oh yeah, we could have a whole
Wanted that in my
conversation
head.
just on bringing girls up in the world right now. It's
sure.
but the only thing I can do is try and create, awareness, help her create self-awareness and,
Self-worth.
educate her on what's right and what's not. And I do think too, really helping to empower her to have her own voice and to stand up for herself, I think is great. But again, we have to tell her, you don't go hang out with just guys and X, Y, and Z. I mean, it was different when I was a kid. My 3 best friends were guys. I hung out with 3 guys, through most of high school. But I don't know that it even really crossed my mom or my parents' mind. Definitely not me about, oh, well, what could. But now it's like, we have transitioned to not even letting her spend the night. It's a thing now. It's a parent thing. Like, nobody spends the night here. And, Jordan's brought up some really good points about why that could be dangerous. And we don't let her spend the night. That she can stay later. But it's just a scary, scary world out there now, especially with the schools and how they allow females to dress.
And I think it's important. So on that, 2 things, and I think it's important. Because we were talking about slut shaming earlier, and like anybody listening, and I'm very happy to say this. I don't care if we lose numbers, but if you're thinking that it's because of how girls dress,
no,
or whatever, if that's you, thank you for listening. We really appreciated the views up to this point, but you can go fuck right off. Second of all, and this is important. In your particular story, it was people who were in drug environments and in alcohol environments, blah, blah, blah. This happens. There's youth pastors that do this. There are firefighters that do this. There are stand-up teachers that nobody would ever suspect who do this. It's not like, it makes sense he was doing drugs. No. Drugs are a result of other trauma that some other people have experienced. But there are people out there who are sexually abusing children, who are your stand-up citizens in the community, who are your police officers. Like, think of like he seems like a nice guy all the time. It's anybody, anywhere, at any time. We don't know. There's no like, we all wear a t-shirt or have a mole on your left side that tells you, oh, that guy's going to be weird, or that woman sometimes is going to be weird. Unfortunately, it's always almost guys. But my point is that I'm trying to make is, in your particular story, it was because you were around alcohol, and some of that there's more propensity to that. Sure, I guess, if you will, statistically, but it's not that. It's not like, I mean, who was the guy, the mega church pastor that just got, whatever, he only got 6 months and like $250,000 of restitution, but he had been abusing like little girls for decades.
And I mean, that little bit of a sentence, that sets an example too, right?
Yep.
6 months, just only 6 months.
Yeah, I think it should be castration and public shame into an island. You can continue to live, but you're not going to live here. Anyways, that's a whole other conversation, but maybe later part of this conversation. But my point is, it's anybody. It's not that's why you can't just have them go sleep over at Susan's house, because we don't know Susan's dad or whatever, and he might seem like a nice guy. Sorry, Susan's dad, whoever the hell you are, but do you know what I'm saying? It's just, it could be anybody. So those are the 2 things to remember. Just because it happened to you in a way that was through drugs and alcohol does not mean that's the only place it happens.
Yep. And I think it's important for me to say, as a boy mom, right? Like, I am a boy mom, and I talked about it earlier, raise them, we don't slut shame. But also, as boy parents, whether you have one or five and you have mixed gender children, it's important for us as parents to raise them to be tender, to be sensitive, to let go of that toxic masculinity that exists so much in the world today. And can I say that I 100% cured my boys of it? No, because they did grow up in the US and they were athletes and they encountered all of that. They have, they have a dad who is very masculine. But I did my damnedest to raise them with sensitivity and understanding and caring. I wear this necklace that says, "Let boys cry." And I am super passionate about that why should we ever not let a boy express their emotions and their feelings? Because you're a man, be a man, rub some dirt on it. No, they have feelings and emotions too. So that's my call to all of your parents out there listening with boys, allow them the space to be sensitive and tender.
Yeah, and it's not all rage. And it's not all rage, like anger and stuff like that. That seems to be associated with boys quite a bit. But it's, dude, we all feel angry and we all feel sad and we all feel all of the feelings. It's not like just because you're a dude, you only experience this spectrum of feelings, and we don't get to feel compassion or whatever. But you're right. I think that's emotional intelligence is what that's called, right? And we don't people for kids, it's all about straight A's, getting good grades in math and all this stuff. That's your IQ, but the EQ stuff gets kind of left by the wayside, and nobody's teaching, hey, there's no such thing as a bad emotion or a good emotion. Anger is they're just information, and all it is you take that information and you work your way through it rationally, right? If you're angry, that's telling you something. If you're happy, that's telling you something. There are unpleasant emotions, and pleasant, can't do anything there. But there's learning how to manage those feelings and be sensitive to them. That is miles ahead of anything that you can see. So good job. Good job, mama.
Thanks.
You're crushing it.
I'm probably pretty biased, but I think I got some pretty awesome kids.
Well, but
I bet.
Awesome kids come from parents who give a shit. And, again, we could have a whole episode. Am I allowed to throw out Purple Dragon? You guys can keep talking. Can I throw out Purple Dragon?
Yeah.
Do you guys want to keep going?
Yeah.
Listen, Andreas, you were worried about Purple Dragoning. No, you guys go ahead. I will be 2 minutes. You can just enjoy my absence for 2 minutes.
Sounds good. Okay, so let me ask you. I'm gonna get Brooke off stage for a second. Okay, so let me keep asking you some questions here and share, so we can kind of set up for the next part of this, because your marriage, there's a whole different chapter of abuse. So spoiler. Sure. So we'll wait till Brooke comes back. But as you reflect back to this point in your life, and you're feeling there's this depression and all this stuff is happening, do you think that there's a part of you that knew it was because of the trauma, or when this depression hit you, was it completely out of nowhere that you're like, what the hell is this? Because we're looking back in the 90s where depression and mental health were still not there wasn't resources around. I don't even know when the suicide helplines came up. It was probably around then, but it wasn't it's kind of more mainstream now, even though, you know what I'm saying? So what were you, how are you associating to this? Or were you just is it because of my grades, or what? You know what I'm saying? What were you tying to this depression?
I think the grades were the initial, right? You went to school, you had this opportunity, and you're screwing it up. But when I really was in the quiet, the still of the night quiet, I knew it was from everything that I had experienced, because like I said, I always knew subconsciously that it wasn't right. I always knew. So when that depression hit, that strong sense of no value and worthlessness, I knew where it had come from. And that truly my entire life, I had never felt like I was of value. I always felt like a burden and unwanted. So I was cognitive enough to know that it was connected.
Yeah.
And
you knew
luckily,
that they had some tie to it. Okay.
Yeah. And luckily I ended up seeing the nurse practitioner at the doctor's office in our small town that I had seen my whole life. And she looked me dead in the eye and she was like, you are worth it, and
Wow.
I'm going to help you. And that was the first time in my entire life, I was 19 years old, that anyone looked me directly in my face and said, you're worth it. Like, your life is worth it. And I will never, ever forget that woman. Her name was Ramona, and she changed my perspective about who I was and what I was meant to be and do. Took me a long time to figure it out, but
Sure.
that's like a core moment in my life.
Yeah.
for
It gave you
sure.
something to hang on to at that point.
Mhm.
And then in college, you started abusing alcohol, I guess, or maybe not abusing it, but you started using alcohol. And
Yeah.
drugs were also present in college dormitories, college sororities, and fraternities. Were you aware of that? And were you like, not that, because I've seen that around. That's not my shit. Or were you also susceptible to participating in something like that?
Definitely not. And drugs have never been, like, I just stayed as far away from them as
Good.
possible.
Yeah.
And the drinking, I don't know that I would say I abused it. I definitely drank on the weekends to be included. It was that peer pressure social kind of thing. And then I went for many, many years of not drinking at all. I'm lucky. I don't have an addictive type personality. They say, like, addiction gets transferred generation to generation.
yeah.
And I think luckily my sister and I were so exposed. We were like, no, that's not for us. And it truly never has been.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I am glad for that, because as a Colombian, I'm aware of drugs and how drugs can like ruin societies. But we only made it. It was Americans that consumed it. So, like, you know, but in principle, in college, those were around, and in my head, I'm like, I can't do this. So I'm glad, because drugs are great. They'll ruin your life. That's how good they are, you know.
Right.
But that they're not the
Listen,
solution.
I was a kid in the 80s with the Just Say No to Drugs campaign, right? Like,
Yeah.
with the
Thanks,
Reagan
Ronald.
campaign. Just say no.
Good old Ronnie. And now that's why I have to get checked randomly at every airport I go to ever, because of that, really. Or why I might get deported next week. So, okay. All right, so let's move on to faith. Okay, so let me actually pause here. I'm going to give a quick pause on the I'll do a quick pause on the recording. All right, so quick break there, and we've decided we're going to split this into a two-parter. So stick around, because we're going to have Michelle back for next week as well. But let's wrap up this conversation, because we're at a good stopping point for what happens next, and I'll let you kind of share kind of what entails in the next part of your story, because oh my god, this is just part one, and I cannot imagine. But let's wrap up this section with where we're at now. You're 19. You're at a place where you're trying to find your self-worth. You don't even know what that even means probably at this point in your life. And how are you mentally looking at yourself? You're going through this depression. Your grades are tanking. You're feeling like it's insanity. Let's continue through that and kind of end that phase of your life. And then we'll come back and pick up where we were left off next week.
Yeah. So I think at that stage of my life, I felt worthless, super worthless. Ashamed and very embarrassed. I really had no joy. It was survival. And that is what I really realized, even to this day, that I have been in survival mode for all of existence. So I never had joy. I never looked forward to anything. I didn't have a favorite meal. I didn't love to do anything, because I was so suppressed in this survival, fight or flight, and I was just in like robot go mode, and feeling so terrible. And I truly felt at that point, good things only happen to other people. Good things only happen to good people, and I'm not a good person, so they've not happened to me. Like, this was the rhetoric that was circling around in my brain, and I was just lost. Lost is the best word. Searching for something. And luckily, we talked about this on the break. I didn't turn to drugs and alcohol, even though generationally it like that I should, right? All stats say I should be a drug addict or an alcoholic, and I didn't. So I'm grateful for that. I just became hyper independent, and I don't need anyone. I can do it all on my own. It's me against the world, which is not healthy at all, but it was my way of surviving.
Oh man. Oh my God.
Mhm.
So I guess last question, and then you can kind of tell us about what's up next on your story. But when you think back on your time, what's something that you would tell yourself at that point? Because obviously more trauma happens to you coming up, so that would be a different message. But if knowing what you know now, and how you've come to look at this part of your life, what would you tell 19-year-old Michelle to say, hey, it's gonna be okay?
I would tell 19-year-old Michelle that you're on the right path. You know, and you know your gut, you know what your heart is telling you, to trust it, to trust your gut. I didn't. For a long time, I didn't trust my gut. And when I look back on it now, if I had just trusted my gut and leaned into my own self versus outward, I would have had a different outcome. But then if I had had a different outcome, would I be sitting here today with the experience and all of it? So
that's
I
always
don't know.
that's always the biggest mind fuck. It really truly
it
is, because
really
you're
is.
like, I mean, because I'm the same way. There are many times I've told people my intuition was screaming, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, or this isn't the right decision, or any of that. And, I didn't listen to it. My ego took over. My fear took over. And though I did, and things worked out the way that they did, and would I be able to be sitting here, doing this now, and, with Mila especially, and, it is, you just, you got to take it. You got to take it and be like, I knew I did the best that I could with the information I knew at that point in time. And,
Right.
Now I know differently, and I may know differently, but would I have gone back and, do I want to go back and say that I would have done it differently? I don't know. Because I like who I've become and what I've learned and the person I am today. And she wasn't ever going to exist had X, Y, and Z not happened.
Amen, sister. I feel that to my toes. I feel it. So good for you.
And it is hard, because people look at it and they're like, you wouldn't go back and change things? Your son died. Well, that doesn't mean that I like that it happened, but I'm also not in control of what happened. And if I allow myself to think that I'm in control of that, and I exist in that spot, what happened to me, what happened to him, if I start going down that rabbit hole of I should have changed this, I could have changed this, what if I would have done this differently, then that just hurts mentally. That just hurts me more and more, and feeds into that fear and that ego. And so no, I don't wish my kid was dead. And I can also say I like who I am today. And it's because I chose to learn from that experience. It took me a while, but I chose it, and I continue to choose it. That's empowering. It is empowering to look back and be like, this fucking sucked, and I lost, or I was abused, and this is who I became because of it for a while. And, fill in the blank for whatever trauma or whatever experience you had. But if you can look at it and say, you know what, this really bad thing happened to me, or these really bad things happened to me, and I choose to learn from it and use it as, a way of moving forward and becoming a better person and living for myself, well, then I've empowered myself to walk alongside those experiences.
I love that.
No.
Yep.
It's just look, if you're still alive, then it couldn't have happened any other way. Like I love the idea of like it's okay to go back and think, what would have changed? But the reality of the situation is, unless you invent a time machine in our lifetime, you don't have that power. That is not a power you get to have. You can think about it and you can associate those thoughts with any attachment to any emotion, but you do not have the power. The power you do have is to understand that it did happen to you, and despite it happening to you, you can still grow, learn, move on, change. Move on is not the right word. You can still change and carry that weight despite the fact that it happened to you.
Absolutely.
It's going to be okay. It's going to, to hear someone say that right now,
I know, for
probably,
some
you
people,
probably would want to punch me in the face. I would want to punch me in the face. But then later on, that anger goes away and you go, oh, Yeah.
Hopefully, there are some people who choose to live in it, and that's not for us to. All we got to
okay.
do is worry about ourselves. So
Yep.
if people are choosing to live in that, then that's their own journey.
And that's okay. Man.
Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
And I think to that point, right? Like, yes, I think we can sit here and feel we're still on our healing path, but we have evolved in our healing. But I would be lying if I don't have moments where I go right back to that 5-year-old little girl of vulnerability and unwantedness and sadness. And I still mourn to this day the little girl that I was. And so I don't want it to be misconceived like, oh, like she told that story and she didn't cry. Well, I cry a lot. I still shed a lot of tears, but I'm just now at a place of power with it. And I think that it's similar to what you are describing, right? Not to misunderstand, like our choice to move forward doesn't mean that we still don't honor.
Right.
What
Well, and
happened.
if you were to sit here and tell me that you don't still have moments of, past experiences and the mourning and the grief and all of that, then I would tell you you're not human, because that is being a super thing. No, because I don't even want to say superhuman, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that is being human, and it's okay to give yourself the grace and space to still sit in those moments. You just don't want to stay there. You want to be able to say, I feel you. I'm here with you. It's okay to feel this way. I'm going to give myself this time, and then I'm going to get up and go do something that brings me joy. Or, that's why it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
Nobody ever gets over it, and you can still live alongside it.
It's just a room in your house now, but you can choose to get out of that room and go to the nice living room that you've created for yourself through the healing and the work that you've put in. But you can still go back into that room and go, oh, there's the room.
Right.
Yeah. And it's similar, right? You can't honor your son without being the person that you are today, right? Like he wouldn't have wanted you to stay stuck in that. So you are able to honor him in all the different ways by becoming who you are today and doing the work that you're doing. Mel couldn't honor Leon if she were still stuck in it the way. And look at that. We got praises and high fives.
I know, look at you.
You are so
look
badass.
at you.
Oh my
See,
God.
for someone who's like, I've never talked about this stuff publicly, and she comes on here and she's just like, voice of an angel.
Just voice of an angel. I'm writing stuff down. I'm going to have to listen to this one back 3 times now. Okay. Well, damn. Okay. So then let's close with this. Could you give us a quick brief, like what's coming next week? Because obviously we're going to do this again, right? So
So what comes next week, it's not a cliffhanger by any means, that a broken woman, a broken girl, I was a girl, a broken girl meets a broken guy, and chaos and volatility ensues, creating a whole different arm of experiences that I had to experience to be able to be who I am here today. But it touches on a whole different level for a different group of people, women especially, that get themselves into marriages that aren't productive and fruitful and happy and thriving. And I've thought a lot about this, and I'm super conscious to not disrespect anyone, because like I said earlier, I have heart and empathy for this human that I chose to be my husband, that is the father of my amazing children, and I want to honor them. But if I can help educate even one woman in a similar situation, then that's absolutely what I want to do. So
okay.
That's what's coming.
If you have friends who are maybe in a marriage like that, if you yourself are in a marriage like that, maybe tune in for the next one as well for that.
We'll tune into all of them, but
tune in for all of them. There's like a little follow check mark. Just hit follow on that. Make sure you don't miss them. There is a newsletter you can sign up for. So, and all we ever let you know on that newsletter is when a new episode drops. We don't sell you anything. It's literally like, hey, here's a link to the new episode, so that way you don't miss it. The only time we're ever going to promote anything is on the actual podcast. So this is where you can come get all your news for all things Trauma Uncensored. And on that note, Thank you for being here and listening. Please leave us a review. It's the best way to support the show non-financially. And of course, it lets us know how to keep moving on with the way that we run these episodes. Maybe if you want more question and answers, or if you like guests, we take all of that information and feedback. So please let us know on that note. Michelle, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you. I know.
And breathe. Okay.
And breathe.
Okay. I'm going to end the recording here. Thank you so much, everyone.